And we are recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Woodburn Accountants and Advisors webinar series for February, all about China market entry. You have joined us for day 3, part 3 of this webinar series, where we are going to be looking at how to vet your potential business partners in China. Before we begin today's session, again, we haven't had so much interaction in the last 2 days, so it'd be great if you could interact with me and just let me know a little bit about yourselves. Are you newbies to China, meaning you found opportunities and you're looking to gain a certain level of education on how to do business in China? If that is you, type in newbie. Please, please, please use the Q&A section so that I only have one area to look at versus the Q&A and the chat. If you could just put all your comments in the Q&A, that would be most helpful. If you are a startup in China, it means that you've already transacted in China for a period of 1 to 3 years, and you're looking to see if you've reached certain trigger points to move your business forward. And the experienced China hands are those like me that have been on the ground in China for over, God knows how long, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, have entities on the ground and are just looking to get new and fresh ideas on how to operate. If you are a newbie, if you are a startup, if you are an experienced China hand, just type very quickly newbie, startup, experienced in the Q&A section, and that will give me a little bit of an understanding on who's here. Louisa, thank you so much for typing in newbie. Appreciate that. Again, based on the fact that Louisa is the only one who's typed in newbie, I am going to direct this presentation a little bit more to those that are newbies and have found opportunities and are looking to get an understanding on how to work with partners. Basically, how the webinar works is that I educate you on how things work in terms of partners, how to find them, what are the mistakes foreign investors make with them, and ultimately how to vet them, all right? So if you guys do have questions in relation to the content, please, again, focus on the Q&A section versus the chat. Just so that I have one area to look at versus several. Please use this time wisely. It's your time spent, so ask away. Don't be shy to ask away. If you would like to ask me something personally that I don't highlight on the webinar, then just type that into the Q&A and I will answer you in an email format later on, all right? Just note, I'm a newbie to Zoom. I've switched from GoToWebinar to Zoom. So if we run into any technical issues, please bear with me. My biggest suggestion for you would be if you run into any issues, just log off, try to log back in using the same URL. I will be doing the same if that happens on my side. Just a little bit about myself for those of you that don't know who I am. My name is Christina Kohler-Coluccia. I'm the head of business advisory at Woodburn Accountants and Advisors. I'm one of the leading experts on inbound investment into China. 100% of my clients are foreign investors looking to gain traction and entry into the Chinese as well as Hong Kong market. And I've worked with over 500 companies on their China journey, which basically means everything from coming up with appropriate business models, creating phased business models, all the way through to implementing those business models. And quite honestly, the fun part of the job now for me is seeing how these companies grow in the market and where they have to place focus in order to grow. I'm the creator of the China Roadmap methodology, the China Incorporation Blueprint, as well as the China Profit Accelerator, which are 3 very different types of methodologies. The China Roadmap is really for the newbies. The China Incorporation Blueprint are for those of you that are looking to actually establish an entity in China. And the China Profit Accelerator is geared towards companies that are looking to grow in the Chinese market. And we take it from a financial perspective in regards to that methodology. I do these webinars every single month. If you are interested to subscribe, go to our website, woodburnglobal.com/events. And otherwise, if you guys want to talk to me one-to-one, please do so. Happy to do that. It's always easier to talk to one-to-one. And if you don't want to vocalize your questions during the Q&A. So let's get started with today's presentation, which is all around partners. Now, when you go into the Chinese market, Even for me, who's been on the ground in China, managing an entity, managing a structure, managing people, probably this was my biggest mistake that I made upon entry, was not developing relationships with people. When I define partners, this can be a variety of different individuals. It can be people that are third parties. So, if you are selling a product, it would be people that are in warehousing, logistics, domestic transportation. It could be people that are in marketing, that are in digital marketing, that are TP providers. It could be, in my case, I'm not located all over China, and I need to have a network of local tax agents to help me fulfill my clients' tax declarations if my team is not based there locally. So I have this network that I've developed over 17 years. And made mistakes and errors in terms of the partners I found, but I am in search of these individuals continuously. So finding partners is not just finding that one distributor, finding that one TP provider, it's finding that network of individuals that can help your business grow. And whoever those partners are, whether that might be media agencies, lawyers, accountants, whoever it might be, you might find some good ones, you might find some bad ones. In the end of the day, you are looking for partners that you can develop personal relationships with and build on those relationships. It is a people-to-people business. And you're looking for people who are going to take your company up that ladder and grow it into the Chinese market, okay? So they should be there for you, all right? So why do you need to find partners in China? Well, as I said, partners are locals. China is enormous. In my case, me and my team, we're based in Shanghai. That's where our office is. And I need partners that are based throughout China to help my clients do local tax filings, do local negotiations with tax bureaus and whatnot, that we physically cannot do because either we don't have that network with the tax officers, or we're just not physically able to be there, right? So just remember, partners are always the locals. I even consider that with my team. My employees are my partners. They are there to help me grow my business and expand on it. They will always know more than I do in relation to the Chinese market because I'm a foreigner there, all right? Partners, if you find the right ones, are usually those people that you have the ability to trust, right? They're normally people that have been in the market for a very long time, and they normally have the right channels to either be able to sell your product or take care of your business on your behalf, okay? And this is obviously what I mean by by having the right partners. You want to find that right partner. And trust me, you won't always find the right partner from the get-go, which is also why I have a mass ecosystem of partners. Ones that I work with today that maybe their service level and quality might disappear over time, and I've got backups, okay? So when you're going into the Chinese market, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see, is that everybody's focused on this one partner. Actually, you should have always backups available or work with several partners at one time just to spread your wings, all right? So why do you want them? You need them because they're local, right? And currently under COVID instances, you don't have the ability to go over there and do this yourselves. So you need to build this network of individuals that can help you to get into the Chinese market and help you to grow in the Chinese market and ultimately help you make money in the Chinese market, okay? But what are the main mistakes that foreign companies make when choosing partners? The first one is that you think they will help you to promote your product. And that depends. If you're working with a media agency, their goal is to promote your product and to promote your brand, okay? If you're working with a distributor, it might not be that their role is to promote your product. So you need to find another partner to do that promotional aspect, okay? You have to make the assumption, you have to make the realization that a partner will not be able to fulfill everything that you are looking for in the Chinese market, because they may not have that level of expertise, okay? When you're looking at distributors, you call them and ask them to be your distributor. They're gonna be like, what? Who are you? I don't know you. I don't even know how to evaluate you. Usually, if you call them and ask them to be your distributor, they will then do an online research on you to see whether you are worthwhile to them to become a client. You proactively reaching out to them is usually not the best idea. When you're working with distributors or sales agents or licensees, ultimately, in an ideal scenario, you want them to approach you. Okay? When you're looking for other service companies like media agencies or TP providers, in those scenarios, it's usually you reaching out saying, I would like to do cross-border e-commerce, or I would like to have a brand strategy for the Chinese market. How do I do it? And then it will become down to actually the financial aspect, whether you can afford working with these types of partners. So it's finding the right partner on a human basis, on a relationship basis, but also from a cost perspective. When you tell them you are a well-known brand abroad, and now you want to be a well-known brand in China, they don't care. They don't care what you've done abroad. China, most partners that are in China, they care only about the China business. And everybody wants to be a success in China. This is nothing new. Everybody wants to be a success. Just because you've done well abroad, there are millions of brands that have done well abroad. But it doesn't mean that you would do well in China. Okay? So when partners are evaluating you, they do not care what you've done abroad. They don't take that into their evaluation. What they take into evaluation is, what have you done so far in China? What have you created so far in China? What collateral or assets do you have in China? Have you already trademarked yourself? Do you have a Chinese website? They're going to look that you've got the basics. Okay. Otherwise, they're going to have to invest a lot more of their time before actually they earn anything. Okay. And obviously that's in reference to talking about sales agents or distributors. Do not make the assumption that people need to work with you. They don't. They don't need you. There are thousands of companies, not even thousands, hundreds of thousands of companies that are looking to enter the Chinese market on a daily basis. You are a needle in a whole bunch of needles, okay? You are not this 1 in a million company that everybody is looking for anymore. And that's the disadvantage of entering the Chinese market currently, is because just everybody wants to go there, all right? So you have to figure out ways of differentiating yourself. You have to figure out ways of how to tell these providers, well, you've already done your research, you know what's happening in the Chinese market, and you want to enter, and this is your strategy. You've got to have that plan already outlined, okay? And the biggest other mistake is you focus on one big distributor. My philosophy is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Why would you do that? You're looking at a population of 1.3, 1.4 billion people. Every province is different one to another. You should have your niche. You should find distributors in the cities that you want to basically attack. Okay? Do not make the assumption that one distributor can fulfill the growth of the entire Chinese market. It's impossible to do that. The market is that big. If you're choosing one distributor to cater to, I don't know, Beijing, or let's expand that a little bit, Beijing and Tianjin, there's a 30-minute train ride between the two, or northern China, but even northern China is quite big. You know, you're spreading yourself thin there, right? You can't expect that someone who's based in Beijing as a distributor knows the intricacies and has a network in southern China. They probably don't. So you're missing out on a big portion of that growth. Now, why don't they aim to promote your products in China? So Chinese distributors don't promote anything, not usually. They only sell products that can be sold well, okay? They don't want to waste their time while they could sell something that has already been promoted. Like I said, if you haven't done the groundwork, the basic foundation, they don't want to get involved with you, okay? And remember, they are not friends who help. In China, the Chinese people, but even me as a Westerner, we're there to earn money, okay? That's the #1 goal. We're there to be profitable, all right? They want to use your product to earn. They're not your friend. And this is also something that sometimes I have to be very blunt with people. You might know somebody in your network for 15, 20 years. You've done business on and off with that individual. You make the assumption that you're friends with them because you've developed this guangxi, this relationship with them. But business is business. People are there to earn. Okay. Why shouldn't you call them? Okay, this is a little bit going into more detail from the basic mistakes that people are making. Well, most people in China already have a client base. Okay, if they need more clients, they will go out and search on their own to acquire those clients, and they will do their own background check on those clients. Okay, and they will then approach you. If you approach them, right, it means that you have to come with something that differentiates you from everybody else. And you need to figure out what that differentiation will be. If they still haven't contacted you or called you back after that first contact you made, it's probably because either you have no reputation in China, or you haven't done the basics, or you've actually developed a poor reputation, a poor brand image, which you might not even be aware of. So doing a brand awareness study prior to approaching distributors or these sales agents or licensees is critical. You need to know where you stand today in the Chinese market. Ultimately, what I'm trying to tell you is you have to make them call you. Okay? You have to make sure that even if you've made that first call because you didn't know better, that they call you back and that they then want to sign on with you. Okay? You've got to make it attractive to them. Why not to ask them to make you well known? Well, they already need you to be well known to work with you. Okay, they need you to have a certain foundation in the Chinese market. They need you to have a certain level of reputation, a certain level of brand image to be able to work with you. I actually just had a call the other day also from a company where the distributor, they're in negotiations with a distributor, and the distributor basically said, if you don't have your trademark registered in China, I'm absolutely not interested to work with you, because at some point you might come to me and say, I've stolen your brand. So there are even distributors going out there saying, if you haven't registered your trademark in China, you're not a brand that we want to work with. Okay, because they can't do much if your brand is not registered, and they might get in trouble if you haven't registered your brand. They have to be sure they will earn from you. Okay, that is their key objective. Otherwise, they wouldn't sign with you. But you need to make it very clear with them what are their responsibilities. Make it so transparent, and what are your responsibilities. Like I said, with many distributors and partners on the ground, they won't do the promotion for you. Okay, they have to be sure you won't spoil their reputation. They already have a client base. Okay, we're looking at China in the perspective of 2021. They will usually have a client base already, and they don't want to have their reputation spoiled by immature actions taken by you, which might sound very brash and blunt, but that's the reality right now in China. They don't want to make any special effort because they already have a client base. They want their life to be easy, and all they want to do is earn. And if they have that network to be able to sell, which you need to verify, then they will just go ahead and do it, and they'll sell. But you need to know in which cities, provinces, what is their territory, right? What is their speciality in terms of product line? They might not be specialized in every single product that you're looking to sell in the Chinese market. Why don't they need you? Well, if you're doing well in your country, it might not be the same in China, right? You might be doing super well in the UK, in the US, in Canada, and Germany, and Australia, but you might not do well in China. It might just be because people don't like your product. They don't like your packaging, okay? As I said, they already have a client base. They already have merchants just like you, who maybe even have a better reputation in China that they've already built up on. And they're just going to take off on that brand reputation, right? And don't forget, they could give up on you at any point in time if your sales are not growing, okay? Distribution, brand promotion has to come hand in hand. And if it doesn't go hand in hand, then disaster arises. And the distributors might actually terminate the agreements with you. Why is it wrong to work with only one distributor? And I've actually given, I think, 9 reasons today on why not put all your eggs in one basket. Okay. The number one is very simple. If you work with more distributors, you get access to a greater audience. Simple as that. You go into the Chinese market, you want nationwide coverage. In addition to that, you do not want to sign exclusivity. You never know how relationships are going to pan out. So you want to be able to put your eggs in several baskets in case one basket disappears for whatever reason that might be, whether it's you don't like them, they're not reaching KPIs, they're not reaching their promises. You want to spread your wings, go nationwide and work with a variety of distributors. And like I said, have a backup plan. Okay, have backups in store just in case. China is huge. Remember, Northern China, Southern China, dialects are so different. The cultural aspects are different. Food is different. It is I always say that China is like a patchwork quilt with various patchworks everywhere with different religions, food, culture, dialects, etc. You can't expect one distributor to cater to the entire market, okay? And obviously, by spreading your wings and working with a variety of distributors, you're lowering your risk, right? You want to be able to look for that variety of sales channels. There is no guarantee that you will choose the best distributor at the start because you're not educated enough to know what is a good distributor in China, all right? You got to work with several to gain momentum, first of all, to gain consistency in the market, and then see who's good and who's not good, right? So you want to spread your wings in that regard as well. You might also find that a distributor has an expertise in only one product line versus in all of your product lines. So you may also want to look at partners that have expertise in certain products and a network in certain product lines versus looking for one distributor that tells you who can do everything. All right. Don't forget, this is probably something that is very key to me personally. You don't want to lose control. You don't want to lose control over your China business. It is currently the only market that is growing tremendously compared to anywhere else in China. You want to be able to start on the right foot and keep as much control as possible so that you have the ability to make decisions on whether you keep partners or you don't keep partners. Okay. And don't forget the last part, which is common in China. I wish it wasn't so, but that's the reality, is that if you have an exclusive agreement with a distributor, the distributor might copy your product into a cheaper product and then make your product redundant. Okay, that might even happen if you have several distributors. So you have to make sure you protect your product, that patents are registered, that trademarks are registered. Be wary of the bad stuff that can happen with these partners, which is why the vetting process is so critical. How do we find partners in China? Now, I get this asked a lot. This is not a service that I provide. I don't go out and find partners. I don't find distributors, licensees, media agencies. I have a network. Whether that's a good or bad network, I don't know. I just know a lot of people. And it's up to you to vet them based on your criteria and what you're actually searching for in those types of partners. But I just wanted to give you guys a couple of options in terms of how to find partners, because maybe there are some things you weren't aware of. All right. So option one is very simply searching online. Okay. You can do partner searches online. You use Google, and I don't know, you type in a product and you say distributor in China, XYZ. Just remember, there are hundreds of thousands of distributors in China. Not every single distributor has a website that is connected to Google, because they will predominantly be using Baidu as a search engine. So my suggestion would always be to do your searches using Baidu as well as Google. I also suggest using LinkedIn to look for individuals versus looking for companies that can help and assist you. But just remember that there are the larger distributors who might either be privately owned or state owned. They may already have exclusivity contracts held by them with competitors of yours, because we're now in 2021 and a lot of your competitors may have already entered the market. So just be aware of that. The larger companies will pop up in your Google searches versus the smaller companies that might be more suitable for you in terms of getting into the market. Option 2, which maybe some of you aren't aware of, is Tmall B2D, which is business to distributor. So Tmall B2D is a platform where you can connect with more than 85,000 Chinese distributors for a wide variety of different products. And basically it is a channel where you can gain brand visibility and start building a reputation. And basically the Tmall B2D is a platform to connect the brands with the distributors. And then Tmall also helps with the management of those distributors, service and logistics, payments, etc. So it is a type of intermediary that can be utilized as well as an introductory platform. And then obviously you also have Alibaba and other avenues where you can find distributors as well. This is just a bit of advice around the Tmall app. Remember, the Tmall app just makes that introduction. It doesn't do the vetting process for you. Although one good thing about it is that Tmall does vet that it's a company behind that distributor, so that they're taking away the first step of verifying the business license on all of those aspects related to the company, but it's not vetting its references and its abilities and its connections and its network, right? The platform is in Chinese. It's not bilingual, so it might be a little bit difficult for you to be able to join that, and you might need to use an intermediary to help you connect to it. Option 3 is using experienced B2B matching companies. Whenever you are using matchmaking companies, and this can be through market research companies, or it can be through chambers of commerce and associations, again, you have to be privy, you have to be aware. I consider these very similar to the Tmall B2B solution in that they're vetting that it's a company, they're vetting that they're in the same product line, but they are not vetting the actual physical capabilities. That still has to fall on you. They're just simply doing the introductions and making you aware of all the distributors that exist. It's a very superficial research, basically, but it's an initial way of connecting. Now, I know just personally through clients that have used the China-Britain Business Council, they take that a little bit one step further, where they even join the matchmaking meeting to help facilitate the translation services, but also to keep on their promise that they've vetted the company and that the company will actually show up for the call. And option 4 is actually you building a reputation in China so that distributors or partners contact you. Okay, so here are just 4 tips for you in terms of finding, in order for reliable distributors to find you and to contact you. 1 is having a Chinese friendly website. 1 is being present on social media. So WeChat, Little Red Book, Weibo, etc. It's building this e-reputation and engaging your customers in your product's awareness, in your product, right? Just a couple of more tips on this. I think Baidu SEO is essential. So you know where you might use Google SEO, try to use Baidu SEO so that you get on the top of the search functions for your products. This is how Chinese distributors and partners do a little bit of research on you, is using Baidu and seeing where you might pop up in the search functions. Chinese social media is a place to thrive. At a minimum, joining WeChat. What I want people to be aware of is that in China, email is rarely used. So if you want to reach out to partners, you actually either need to contact them via WeChat or pick up the phone, because emails do get unanswered. And WeChat is predominantly an email and community management marketing tool. I have WeChat constantly open on my computer because that's where a lot of things are sent back and forth. And then obviously having a WeChat brochure is more important than having a WeChat, a brochure that is physically produced. It's light and easy. You have a QR code on there that people then can also join your WeChat company site, and where you can start having discussions. Using KOLs. Now, KOLs can be extremely expensive, but China recommendations mostly come from locals because China people trust Chinese people, right? So using KOLs to build a certain level of reputation surrounding your product might be critical for you as an early stage investment, again, just to build up your reputation. And then obviously, before the borders were shut, I would have told you guys to participate in trade fairs. It is a very old-fashioned mode, but it is a very simple way of meeting people and developing a network in your sector and in your industry. Do not give up on trade fairs. And also, please do not give up on the virtual trade shows that are currently happening in China. Give them a chance. It is not the same as the face-to-face, but it is a way for you to get in touch with companies and names to start a conversation about what they could do for you in the Chinese market. I have been getting feedback that people really don't like the virtual trade show concepts. We all know it's not as good as the real thing, but don't give up on that, because that is an easy way to avoid the partner searches by just looking at who are the exhibitors. You'll have a contact person that you can reach out to and start a conversation. And ultimately, let's wait for the borders to open, obviously, but this is one of the best ways to build that network on your own. So let's get started on how to vet the partners in China. And obviously, what I want to emphasize here is there are bad partners. All right. So we need to be able to vet them from the get-go. And I'm going to give you some very simple tips of what you can do from home and do as type of a desk research on them. But you need to be proactive in this. Okay. We all know scams are popular in China. We also know that there is a tremendous lack of transparency with partners that usually stems from the language aspect, the cultural aspect, and just very simply that the partner in China might have a very different expectation and requirement from you as you do from them. So you need to have that open communication and dialogue to, again, understand what are their responsibilities, what are their KPIs, and what are yours. So the first thing that you can easily do, and many people don't because they don't realize they can do this, is when you are going further down the line in discussions with these partners, you need to make sure they are real and that it's not just a guy that you're communicating with that doesn't have an entity, but he wants upfront payments from you. So you need to know that there's a real business behind everything. The 5 documents I've listed here is business license, which anybody is happily to give out to you. Alternatively, you can reach out to someone like myself where we can download that information from the Ministry of Commerce's website. Okay. But ideally, you want to get this from your partner because that's how you're going to develop a certain level of trust. So ask for their business license, ask for their tax certificate, which is now combined with the business license, but you want to ask them for a certain level of proof that they are registered with the tax bureau. Do they have an IP registration? Okay, ask them. Have they registered their trademark? Because usually that shows how serious of a business they are. If you are working with manufacturing companies, I would ask them for their lease agreement or the land use rights certificate. Even for commercial businesses, you might want to ask them for their lease agreement and check whether the address on the lease matches the address on the business license. If it doesn't, that's a red flag, in my opinion, that something's not okay. There could be reasons behind it, but it is a starting point of a red flag. And then you might just want to ask them for their latest audit report, right? Now, audit reports probably are a little bit more difficult to come by directly from the partner. Doesn't hurt to ask and say, for our internal business, we need to vet you. And in order to vet you, we need business license, some form of tax registration proof. Have you registered your IP, which might be a question mark, lease agreement, and then financial documents. You might even say, can we look at your last P&L? They might not give you the financial documents for confidentiality reasons. But in this case, if you do want to look at that, then think about doing a background check on them. So companies like myself, and there are a bunch of others, we have the ability to do background checks on companies in China. We don't always have the ability to get their financial documents because they may have ticked the button at the Ministry of Commerce to not publicly reveal it. But in many instances, companies forget to do that. So you have the ability to take that out. In addition, with doing a proper background check is that you also see if there's been any bad bad status created within the Ministry of Commerce. You know, have they filed things late? Have they done something wrong? You basically want to see whether they're in good standing. But this you could do yourself. It's simply a conversation asking them for these details. Remember to do your due diligence. And again, here are some tips for you, which you could do yourself. So do a general online search on the company and use both English and Chinese search engines. So in English, you're using Google, type that in, see what pops up with their name or with their brand name. And then don't forget to do that with the Chinese search engines. And obviously with the Chinese search engines, you're going to get feedback that is in Chinese. So you might need help for translation purposes for that. But you might also just be able to click on your browser for translation, automatic translation, so you get the gist of what's being said. Call the general fixed phone line several times if you have one, okay? If you have been given a business card or you go on their website and it says there's a fixed phone line, call it at different times within the day and see who picks up and how they pick up, all right? That is usually a sign whether they are based in the address that they have indicated to be based in. Do not rely solely on the WeChat connection. You've got to check whether the contacts that you are speaking to are actually authorized representatives of the companies, i.e., are they employees of those companies? Okay. You want to make sure that they are properly hired by those companies. And in that scenario, again, just blatantly ask, can you show me proof that you are working for that company? All right. So either they send you a LinkedIn profile, which of course can be made up, or they send you proof of a payroll slip, or they send you proof from boss saying that they work there. Ask for references. I can't emphasize this more. And this is something that, again, companies aren't doing. Like I said, distributors and partners already have a client base. Speak to those clients, okay? If you have the ability and they're not direct competitors of yours, okay? But also you wouldn't necessarily want to work with a distributor that's working with your competitors because they might not be working in your best interest, okay? So vet them by talking to their references. Ask for 2 to 3 references, okay? And say, I would like to approach them. I would like to speak to them, okay? So that can be, again, references can be a variety of different things. It can be customers, foreign customers or local customers. It can be suppliers. It can be government agencies. It can be trade associations, whatever it might be. But talk to references. Without that, you're not going to get much further. Or let me put it another way. You won't have that trust being built up unless you talk to people that have already got experience. And like I said, distributors and partners already have clients. You have a pool of people you can speak to. It's not an issue. And just choose 1 or 2 that you'd like to talk to and have a conversation with. What is unique in China is that generally people want to share their experiences. So take advantage of that. Check the address. Now, as I said, many people can't get into China. So use a company, an association, or a chamber of commerce or whomever to verify the address. You've done the phone checks yourself, but you need someone to physically go and say, wow, they're really here, right? And to take photos, right? Usually if you're working with distributors, they're going to have a showroom of all the products that they're distributing, right? So have someone go in and check that for you. Do that, ask for photos, whatever it might be to verify. Again, obtain an AIC file. So if you don't get a copy of the business license yourself, then ask somebody like Woodburn, for example, to obtain the AIC file, which is a download from the Ministry of Commerce. What we need to do that is the Chinese name of the company, as well as the Chinese address. You have to check the official company CHOP together with the business license. So when you ask for when you ask for a copy of the business license, ask them to put the company CHOP on it and verify it. Okay. What you should also be doing is checking the bank account information. So, you know, this might be in the contract. It might not be, but raise that as one of your discussion points, saying, you know, if we were to do business with you, which bank do you work with? Is the bank in the corporate name? Can you provide us details of your bank, right? What's the name of the bank? What's the address, etc., just to verify that. What I have found over the years is that many people are working with partners where it's just a one-man show, and he's using his personal account. Okay, you want this to be professional, so do that vet also with the bank account. And then if you have that ability, is checking the financial reports. But like I said, this is something that they might not provide. So getting a background check done. Again, it's not always automatic that you'll be able to get the financial information, but you know, try and do that so you can see what is their current status. And are they whatever they're saying, is that actually true in terms of their value? For me, I've highlighted some signs of suspicion. Now, you might think I'm going too much in the nitty-gritty or I'm being too critical. All I'm saying is that these are signs of suspicion, that if this comes up, don't hit it like a fly, moving it out of the way. Don't ignore it. Do something about it. Okay? If you have a sensation that something's not right, do something about it before you sign a contract. Talk to someone. All right? Voice your worry and concern, okay, with somebody that has experience in the market, like whether that's me, whether that's somebody else, I don't care. You can also talk to people in the chambers of commerce, whomever, but talk to somebody so you have the ability to voice your worry or your concern. They might tell you you've got nothing to worry about, and that's great, and at least you asked. Okay, now for me, if it's all going too smoothly, that's a sign of worry. Because things in China don't go smoothly. Negotiations never go smoothly. There's always a back and forth. There's always going to be a discussion. All right. If everything is going so smooth and you're like, wow, China's so easy, that's red flag. China's not easy. It's easier than it used to be, but it's not that easy. And you still need to do that vetting process. So if everything is going smoothly and wonderfully, that should be a sign of, you know what, let me talk to somebody about this, because it's just all too good to be true. If the website is only in English, that for me is a red sign. You are contracting, or you're planning on doing business with a partner that is doing business in China. Now, I am also going to say this. Woodburn only has an English version of their website. And that's predominantly because my market is foreign investors. I don't market myself to Chinese companies. So I don't need a Chinese website. Okay. And I don't have to vet myself with my other partners that I utilize. They know that 100% of my clients are foreign investors, and my website is therefore only in the English language. But you should be wary of distributors that are supposedly having a local network of end clients. Those end clients are going to be looking at a Chinese website, not an English website. So if they only have an English website, that would worry me a little bit. Maybe they have a second website that you're not aware about, but then ask them for that, right? Say, do you have a Chinese website? I'd like to take a look at it. If they are pushing you all the time. Now, the Chinese know that a character trait of Westerners is the fact that we don't have much patience. And if you have someone constantly pushing you from the back and saying, come on, we want to sign, we want to do business, we want to earn money, we want to make money for you, go ahead and sign. If they're constantly pushing you like that, that for me is again a red flag. Take control over the timing. You make those decisions, okay? And obviously another issue is that most Westerners want to have been doing business in China yesterday, okay? I get that, but take your time when formulating these relationships and signing up on contracts and going through all of that process, because it's usually complex negotiations. Don't rush it. You want to be able to go into this market with a solid footprint and not rush that initial process. If they've got no verifiable track record, i.e. you've gone through the process of asking them for references and they're not giving you any, that would worry me, okay? You want to be able to get a series of names of companies, all right? And hopefully they're giving you a series of foreign companies so that you have an ability to know who they are and track them. But if they're only giving you Chinese names, then go to a third party or investigate that yourself, go on Baidu and check what they're giving you and see if that's fake or not, okay? But having no track record is impossible because like I said, most companies that are already in China have a client base, all right? And you need to be aware of what that client base is. If they have no company email address, I did say that emails in China are not really used. If they give you no email address, I know why. It's because they want to connect with you on WeChat. People prefer that option. If you openly tell them you don't have WeChat and you don't have the ability to download it, because now it seems now you need to have both phones next to each other in order for the person to verify you to get onto WeChat, then say, you know, I have to be able to communicate on email. I want a company email address, please give it to me. You will find that many companies have generic email addresses that don't have a company domain name. I would worry on that and I would want to investigate that further. Most of the most reputable distributors in China or partners in China will have an email address with a company domain name. So watch out for that. And ultimately, if information does not add up, like I say constantly, there is no stupid question in China, okay? If something doesn't add up to you because it doesn't make sense from your own jurisdiction, you've never done business like that, or you've never been given feedback like that, please don't go on the saying that, oh, well, that's China, we might just have to live with it. Don't make assumptions, okay? Ask your network. Listen, XYZ is happening, doesn't feel right. I don't know what to think about it. Could you tell me a little bit your experience? Now, you might find that someone replies back and says, oh, well, you know, that's actually how it works in China, and then gives you an explanation around it. Or someone says, you know what, I've never seen this in my life. I don't even think this is right. I think you need to follow up on this and ask for more explanation from the company. But don't just ignore your internal gut feelings, explore them, okay? Don't lose patience over it, explore that and make sure that whatever you're setting up is as bulletproof as you can possibly make it and to protect your business and protect you and to protect your market entry, okay? Gut feeling is something I live with on a daily basis and I tend to follow it and explore it. And sometimes I'm wrong by it, sometimes I'm not. It's just something I've learned to always follow my gut instinct if there is something that I don't feel right. If they have no production facilities, no license, and no staff, and this is because they are telling you they're not providing you that information, right? So you have asked them for a lease agreement or a land use certificate, right? Or you've asked them for their business license, or you've asked them for how many people are in your head count. Can you give me a rough estimate? And they're physically not answering those questions, or they are avoiding them or answering them in a very indirect way. That is for me a red flag, and you need to investigate that further, okay? If they are considerably cheaper than market average price, so if your distributor is saying, oh, I just want to earn 1%, and others are saying, I want to earn 5%, that's weird for me, okay? If the percentages are relatively similar one to the other, that makes more sense in my mind. You can only find out the market average price if you're talking to multiple people. If your focus is purely on one distributor, one partner, you do not know what the average prices are, okay? And this is why I'm saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Talk to a number of people to get an understanding of what the price would be and make a comparison on that. If your contact does not work for the company, i.e. you do not have proof that he works for that company, because all you have is his WeChat ID, which is a personal ID, right? When I'm on WeChat, it's my personal ID. I've set it up under my own personal name. It's not the company's. right? So I need to show proof. And one way I do that is I put my face on the website so that people realize who I am, okay? So is the contact on the website? How are you going to find proof that he actually works there? If the communication style or contact person is constantly changing, you don't want to always talk to a variety of different people. You want to have stability when you're doing your market entry, okay? So if that is occurring, that is a red flag that something iffy is going on behind, or that the company is not stable. Okay, so you need to be aware of that aspect. And if they are requesting facilitation fees or full upfront payment, okay, again, explore that. Explore and negotiate whether you can change that, and have an understanding of how that works. Now, at Woodburn, I do ask for my fees up front because I've just had too many situations where when I've split my fees, clients end up not paying the second invoice. So I've just made a company policy. If you want to work with us, you got to pay us for the incorporation up front. For accounting, I don't have that policy. We bill once the accounts are done, but the client is there in China. I have the ability much more to be able to get them than if they're not physically running their entity in China. So everybody's a little bit different, but you need explanations. Why are they asking for the full upfront payment? Why? What is their reasoning behind it? And are you able to negotiate around that? Okay. If they're asking for facilitation fees, what does that mean? What's included under that? Go into details. Okay. Or make sure you go into those details. All right. And if again, your gut is saying, the reason I don't like the reason they gave, or I don't understand the reason, explore that further. Ask for advice. Ask for people's experiences. Everybody is happy to talk about their experiences in China. Last but not least, if you cannot or do not have the ability to do this type of desk research, or you're not getting the answers that you want from the desk research that I've highlighted previously, then do conduct a formal due diligence on the partner, okay? There are a lot of companies out there that do this type of due diligence where they will look at provide you information on the structure of the company, how long has it really been established. They will hopefully get the financial records. They will also look at the media history, so also looking at the e-reputation or reputation that the company has. They'll look at whether the company has good standing or not. They will also give you the background on who's in the corporate management, who's in senior management. That's the type of formal due diligence that you really want to look at, okay? So if, again, the desk research doesn't bring you those answers, conduct a formal due diligence. It's not costing an arm and a leg, guys. And obviously I don't recommend conducting a formal due diligence on everybody, right? So if you've got 10, 20 partners that you're looking at, don't do it on everyone. Kind of filter it down on who sparks your interests, and then do the due diligences on them. What I wanted to finish on today was just, there are a lot of people that are just so weary of China right now in terms of working with partners and partners cheating on them, and the fact that you can't go to China physically to meet people in person. It's just causing a lot of people nervousness by signing off and working with people. So there are a lot of trigger points where I would say, in that case, there are two alternative solutions if you really want to get your footprint in the Chinese market. One is establishing your own business, or the second is hiring your own person. You do the recruitment, or you outsource the recruitment, but you're recruiting somebody who's going to be on the ground in China, working for you full time, that you have control over, that you can give direction to, and that's working 100% for you, versus an intermediary party that again has multiple clients that's working on you. So here are just a couple of trigger points that I think are good evaluation tactics to use to evaluate if your business is big enough for you to warrant hiring somebody or warranting you to incorporating yourself. It's the volume of business, which maybe some of you are literally at zero. In that case, I wouldn't go that route. I think you need to build a little bit, have a few transactions running through the business so you understand how it's working. And again, you can do that through direct sales. Are you being asked to issue FOPIAs in your own company name? So are you asked to be billing locally? Are you being asked for local representation? That's a trigger point. You know, do people want to communicate with someone on the ground? Are you being asked to have stock on the ground? Do you need to increase your brand image? Do you need office space, warehousing facilities, etc.? Okay. The advantages of the employer of record service or incorporating a structure in China is that just basically it shows true commitment and loyalty to the market. It just automatically will increase your brand image if someone sees that you have an office there. Okay. And obviously it provides a whole bunch of other advantages where it helps you to take control over what you're developing. To finish off today, I wanted to highlight 2 case studies. And these are successful case studies, okay? But I wanted to share these stories to predominantly explain to you that there are good partners out there, okay? So the first one, I can't name the companies, but for confidentiality reasons, but I just wanted to highlight one client that produces leather accessories, handbags, suitcases, things like that. UK company. And they actually entered, probably now would be about 7-8 years ago, the Chinese market through a distributor. Distributor has maybe 3 to 4 clients. And they were lucky in this distributor because it was a foreigner. It was an American individual based out of Tianjin, married to a Chinese, speaking fluent Chinese. And already the trust was built because of that Western influence, that Western mindset. So remember, there are distributors, there are partners on the ground in China that are Western-owned firms that you could easily develop your business with, if that's going to help you feel more confident about going into the market. What happened in this case was that the distributor built up the business basically over 5-6 years, working very much closely with the UK in helping to build the brand, figuring out the best ways to build the brand, eventually opening a retail store for the brand and managing that, and then also developing e-commerce strategies with 3 to 4 different platforms. And lo and behold, about 2-3 years ago, this distributor actually decided to go into retirement. And he gave 2 options to my client, which was 1, either you find yourself another distributor, or number 2, you set up on your own and you take over what you've already built. And that's exactly what the client did. They set up the company in Tianjin because actually they took over 2 staff, and they set up a new retail store outlet under their own new company name, and they continued with the e-commerce platforms, and the brand is building. And they're making mistakes along the way. They're learning as they're doing it, because they did give a lot of reins to that distributor. So they didn't know all the inside and outs of having inventory on the ground, how much inventory on the ground, and doing certain sales projections and whatnot. But they're learning and they're doing great. And it was probably one of the best decisions they did, was to go out on their own and do this themselves. So that's one case where actually they worked with a Western distributor based in China to help them grow their business. The second success story that I want to highlight is the following. It's a tea company, and they started off in China a long time, maybe 10 years. And they worked with an exclusive distributor. No issues around that distributor, actually, in terms of exclusivity. They just started working with him. We're very happy with him. Communication was always good. However, over the years, they did find that more needed to be done, and they were realizing that the distributor just simply didn't have those capabilities. What needed to get done was more brand promotion, more marketing, and more brand development. So what they did is they actually expatriated someone from abroad to act as the GM of the brand, working in China under the distributor. So actually employed by the distributor. So they went the route of the employer of record, and the distributor was the employer of record for this foreigner who was there basically to build the brand. And this person then hired 2 additional people, 2 marketing people underneath, also employed by the distributor, to be able to push the brand. They are at a level now in terms of volume and value of business where they have decided to get rid of the distributor in a step-by-step approach. And they've incorporated their own entity in order to be able to do that and distribute themselves. And those 3 employees have now moved over, and they've actually now growing the team. So these are 2 great success stories on how companies have actually worked with distributors, how they've seen the pros and cons and the capabilities of the distributors, and how they've then progressed in the market over the years, developing their own structures and their own entities. All right. This is what I would hope for you guys, to understand that there are success stories in the market. All right. And you just have to do the right vetting behind that, and use people to help you to do that type of vetting. What I would love to hear is, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Please do type that into the Q&A section so I can look at one box versus many. Love to hear what you guys learned about the vetting process, about how to find distributors, etc. Please do give me your feedbacks on that. Here are 5 ways you can reach out to me. Again, we do business and financial plan validations. Tomorrow, Manfred and I will be talking about our alignment and orientation workshop. We offer employer of record services as well as the partner due diligences, and then obviously the incorporations and all the ongoing services as well. If you want to book a session with me just to talk one-to-one, you can do that in the chat section. I've actually copied and pasted all of this information so you have it directly on hand, so you can reach me out through there. And I want to get started on the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please put them into the Q&A section. Nothing's come in just yet. I do want to bring up a question that I did see in the registration form from one of the people that registered today, which was, how do I evaluate, I'm not saying it verbatim, but from my memory, how do you evaluate the promises that partners make? So she was using the example that a couple of distributors seem to be over promising on their capabilities and what they are capable of selling. Now, this is a very tricky question to answer in terms of how to evaluate that. Over promising is a good thing, isn't it? In my opinion, if someone is saying they can sell more, you want to earn more in China, right? Not less. So if someone is over promising, it probably means that they are very keen on having you on board and they feel they have the capabilities of actually selling your goods. Now, if you feel that they're overreaching, you can have that internal feeling, but it's not a bad thing that they're trying to sell or give you the idea that they can sell more. What I would just say is that in the contracts that you are negotiating, you should actually set KPIs. So goals within these contracts. I don't know, in the first, something like in the first 6 months, you've got to hit XYZ revenue. In the first year, you've got to hit XYZ revenue. These are also exit clauses, don't forget, because if the distributor doesn't hit these, then you have the ability to exit that contract. But you need to be very clear in the contract what the goals should be, what the revenue targets should be, and what would happen if those revenue targets are not reached. All right. Now, I actually spoke a couple of years ago to a food and beverage company out of the UK who actually had just signed at that point with a distributor in China. Not just, they've been in that contract for maybe about 6 months, 7 months. And she said, oh, they're not reaching the KPIs. And I said, well, what are you doing about that? Have you had a conversation with them? Have you asked, why haven't you reached those targets? Have they given you reasons? What are those reasons? And she couldn't answer me because she hadn't had that conversation. She had just come to me saying, oh, they're not reaching their KPIs. I don't know what to do. Guys, if people don't reach their KPIs and their goals, if your employees don't reach their KPIs and their goals, you've got to sit with them and ask them why they're not doing it. What are the reasons behind it? So it could be that this guy is not reaching his KPIs because he's not doing enough branding and promotion, and maybe he doesn't have the capital to do that. Could very well be. You need to be able to communicate with these distributors clearly, transparently. And if things aren't popping up as they should, don't wait. Don't swap it like a fly and say, oh, it'll come eventually. No, ask immediately, there and then. If it's something that's concerning you, why aren't they hitting the goals? Have a conversation. Have a Zoom call or a WeChat call and say, listen, guys, I've got an agenda. You promised me in the contract you would reach these revenue levels. Why haven't you? I need to understand what's going on the business there. All right. Over promising for me is not a bad thing, right? And there should be a reason why they are over promising. And what is that? What is their strategy? What are the sales channels that they're going to be achieving? If you have on the other side an inkling that it should be more, i.e. they're under evaluating the revenue that they're going to generate, you should ask them, why can you only generate this much? What sales channels are you going to be using? And maybe that's a trigger for you to then look for other distributors or partners to be collaborating with. All right. So that was a question that popped up in the registration form that I did want to touch on. Richard was asking, you mentioned that a DD would not cost an arm and a leg, but what is the range to expect in terms of cost? Do you think it's necessary to consult a lawyer for the contractual aspects? So in terms of the due diligence, you are looking at anything between 2,500 and 8,000 renminbi. So less than £1,000 for due diligence. And then in terms of the contractual aspects, yes, speak to a lawyer, yes. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I will raise one question to you. Where should the place of arbitration be of that contract? Your immediate response might be the UK, Richard, in your case. Other people, it might be in their home jurisdictions because you feel comfortable and you feel confident because you know the law a little bit better there than you know the Chinese law. But if they breach the contract and you want to exit and you need to go to the place of arbitration, you need to go to the court, can a UK government implement the penalty for that breach of contract to a Chinese company? Difficult, I think, right? So I sometimes say to people, don't eliminate China as being the place for arbitration. Do get legal advice on it, right? But think about it. If there is a breach of contract, the distributor is in China. The distributor has a reputation. And he breaches that contract. First, you go through mediation and you say, guys, you've breached your contract here. I can ruin your reputation now in China. The contract is under Chinese law. You will have more leverage than if you do it in an outside jurisdiction. So do consider that. Richard was just saying, for the contractual aspects, I would think of Hong Kong. You could. Do you have an entity in Hong Kong? Do they have an entity in Hong Kong? Can Hong Kong then, does the law instigate that they can implement the penalty in China or in the UK? Again, I'm not a lawyer, but think about these things, guys, okay? Probably if you were doing it in Hong Kong, I would say then have a Hong Kong company contract and maybe, you know, then see whether that instigates with China better, okay? But again, I'm not a legal expert. I don't want to say that I'm a lawyer. I'm not. I'm saying it from experiences that I've seen. Okay, so definitely get a lawyer. My advice for those of you that are in the UK, and I'm using the UK as an example here because the majority of you are from the UK, is talk to a UK-based lawyer that has a China arm. And there are quite a lot of law firms in the UK that are actually Chinese law firms. That have UK branches. Talk to them first because you will usually find lawyers that are experts on UK and China law, and that's what you will need. And again, you know, the contracts are a fundamental. I don't want to hear from lawyers that say, "Oh, contracts are not important in China." Yes, they are. Please, please, please. Contracts are fundamental in China. They are the foundation of what brings the relationship together. They are the foundation of making sure that if there's any breach of contract, you can do something about it. Do not take these contracts lightly, okay? Please do have them reviewed by experts who have the ability of understanding your jurisdiction and the Chinese jurisdiction. Richard, I hope that answered your question. Let me know if you've got any others. Nobody else has asked anything else. I'll stay on if you're still typing away. I'll still stay on. But just to remind you guys, tomorrow we have our last webinar of this series on China market entry, which is basically where Manfred and I are, both of our goals within our own businesses is actually to get companies to be profitable within the first 3 years of operation. That only brings advantages to me, and it only brings advantages to him, and ultimately it brings advantages to you, the company. So our goal is actually to make sure that when you are getting into the market at your China market entry phase, that everybody is in alignment. Everybody has thought about their strengths and the weaknesses. When they've thought about their weaknesses, how are they going to overcome those? What are the methodologies? And most importantly, that all the decision makers are in agreement on the direction that the company should go. And this is something that we want to just talk about in tomorrow's session. So please do join us. If you haven't registered, you can go to woodburnglobal.com/events. Nobody else has popped anything else in. So again, I'll stay on for a couple of minutes, but if you do have any questions, just type that away. And in the meantime, I hope to see you all again tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this session, and take care and goodbye.